have a big word problem right here, so I'm pretty stoked about this. Let's read it, and I'm going to have whoever's directing this pause it, and then write down the information, or underline the information you think is important. So, word problem example. Marissa is baking a recipe that calls for her to turn down the temperature on her oven for part of the baking time. Write an equation to represent the situation if the temperature in her oven drops 25 degrees every 30 seconds, and after 2 minutes, the temperature is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Take a minute, pause this, underline what you think is important. Okay, so she's baking a recipe. We don't care about that. But it calls for her to turn down. Turn down tells me this is going to be probably a negative rate on her oven for part of baking time. Write an equation that represents the situation if the temperature of oven drops. Yep, look at that. 25 degrees every 30 seconds. That's a rate. And it says drop, so that's negative, right? And again, what do we see? After 2 minutes, the temperature is 350. That sounds like an XY coordinate. We're going to call this X. We're going to call this Y. So step one, we have some steps to write down. Gotta look at my notes, right? Oh, I gotta angle this towards me, though. I don't want to miss the handsomeness that is all this at 11 o'clock at night. Determine a point on the line and slope. So what we mean by that is determine what the XY point is we're given and determine the slope. So I'm going to start with, well, let's write it down. Determine a point on the line. Anytime we're writing equations, guys, those form lines. We're doing linear equations right now. So because of that, we're going to talk about points on the line. Those are our coordinates. Determine a point on the line and the slope or rate, whatever. Okay? So in this case, it says after 2 minutes, temp equals 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's going to lead us to a point to 350. That's our point we're given, our XY point, right? And what's our slope? Well, our slope is really given as a rate. And what is our rate? It is negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit every 30 seconds. Here's the problem with that. You always want to get your slope or your rate over what? One what? Well, that can change depending on the units. Well, what would it make sense? We don't really want to know how much it's going down per second. But I wouldn't mind knowing how much it's going down per minute. So how many 30 seconds are in a minute? 2. So I'm multiplying times 2, right? Because times 2 is 60 seconds. That's 1 minute. So I'm really going to have 50 degrees Fahrenheit per 1 minute, right? And what is that really? That's just a slope of 50. And when you pay attention to this, I forgot to put that. It's a negative 25 times 2, which is negative 50. So that's a slope of negative 50 because it's going down 50 degrees every minute. Okay, so now we have everything we need for step 2. We're going to find the y-intercept, which is our b value, right? Okay. So if I'm going to find the y-intercept, which is my b value, let's plug it in for y equals mx plus b. We know, right? We have our xy point over here, x and y, and we have our m, so I know that m equals negative 50, our x equals 2, and our y equals 350. And let's plug that bad boy in. So I'm going to have y, which is 350, equals my slope, which is negative 50, times my x value of 2 minutes, plus b. Let's multiply that out. 350 equals, that's going to be negative 100, plus b. We're going to add 100. And it makes sense that the starting value is bigger, because if we're going down over time, it would have had to start out at a higher value. That's going to give us 450 is equal to our b value, which leads us to step 3. Again, pause this if you need to. It's a lot of stuff going on, right? Okay, step 3 is write the equation in slope-intercept form. Write the equation. I keep saying slope-intercept form because there's about 3 major forms we're going to focus on this year, and I want to make sure you know slope-intercept. So write the equation in, I'll write down here, slope-intercept form. again, just to remind you, y equals mx plus b. I want that drilled into you, okay? So I know my m is negative 50, and I know my start value is 450. So the equation of the line that contains that slope and that point is y equals negative 50x plus 450 because it's positive. Oosh. Now you're thinking, we're done, what's step 4? Well, we're going to add something. We always want to check our equation. We want to get in the habit of it. I don't always do it, but it's a good idea to make sure you do it right. So we're going to check for the point we were given, which is, oh, I have it right over here, 2,350. Okay. Now, we're going to do a situation where we have multiple points. In those occasions, you want to check with the point you didn't use to solve. In this case, we only have 1 point, so we're going to just use it again. We're going to plug it in. Remember, this is x, this is y. Let's tear the y. And we have our y of 350 is equal to our slope of negative 50 times our x of 2 plus 450. This should come out with a true statement if we do it right. This is our check. Let's put check colon, right, so we know it's a check. 350 is equal to, just multiply that out, that's negative 100. Plus 450, and what's negative 100 plus 450? Well, 350 equals 350. Is that a true statement? Yep, check. It's correct. Awesome. We are down to our final problem of the day. And this is, what do we do? It's just adding one step to the process. What do we do to get a slope-intercept form if we're given only 2 points? So no slope, just only 2 points. And we're going to do it with the points negative 3, 8, and 4, read my own handwriting, 4, negative 6. I know, some of you are like, exactly, Mr. Tim. By the way, feel free to pause at any point in time. I know we're hitting a lot of info. This is good stuff. You'll have all day tomorrow to do the homework. Maybe sometime today, who knows? Okay. So, for these points, step 1, find the slope. So instead of finding the y-intercept first, we got to find the slope first. Because once we find the slope, we're in business. Find the slope. Okay? So when I find the slope, don't forget we had that formula. It was written on the back, bottom of the back, the front page, I mean. And it is, so remember, to find the slope, it's that formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which at the end of the day, guys, x1, that is simply looking at these two problems, these 2 points right here. I'm going to start with this y value, and I'm going to point back to the first y value. So I'm going to have negative 6 minus 8. Now, because I started with this negative 6, I have to start with this 4. And on bottom, we're dividing by the difference in our x values, which is 4 minus negative 3. Excuse me. So, some of you may be asking, what if I wanted to start with 8, do 8 minus negative 6 over, well, if you do that, that's fine, but then you have to start with negative 3. So whichever one you start with, you have to start your y value with, you got to start that one with your x value as well. All right, so let's solve this. Negative 6 minus 8 is negative 14 over, this becomes a plus, right? 4 plus 3 is 7. And what's negative 14 divided by 7? We know that our m equals negative 2, excuse me, because it's negative 14 divided by 7. Positive divided by, or negative divided by a positive is negative. So now we go to our step 2. So we're going to use a point. Pick one. It doesn't matter. They'll both come up with the same equation if you do it right. And slope to find the y-intercept, which is our b value. I keep repeating this so it gets into you. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pick the point negative 3, 8. Feel free to use 4, negative 6. See if it comes out different. It won't if you do it right. And I'll prove that later. So negative 3, 8. This is my x, this is my y, and then my m equals negative 2. So I'm going to have 8 equals negative 2 times negative 3 plus b. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to have 8 equals negative times negative is a positive. 6 plus b. Subtract 6 over 2 equals b. So now we've got our b value. Awesome. So we're going to end on step 3. Well, actually, we're not. We're going to end on step 4, even though I haven't written it there. Step 3 is simply write the equation in slope-intercept form. Same as above. In slope-intercept form. Again, y equals mx plus b. And for our slope of negative 2 and our b of 2, our y equals negative 2x plus 2. Now, even though I don't have it on here, I am going to do a check. So I'm going to cross off this section right here. I'm going to check it. So this time, I'm going to do it for the point. Since I solved with negative 3/8, I'm going to check the point for negative 6. If I did it right, it should work for both, right? So I'm just going to plug this in to the equation I have right here. So I have a y of negative 6 equals negative 2 times my x value of 4 plus 2. So let's try this out. Negative 6 equals negative 2 times 4 is negative 8 plus 2. What's negative 8 plus 2? It's negative 6. Boom. That is a true statement. Negative 6 does indeed. I can write it again down here. It goes negative 6. Check. All right. Last problem of the day. Of course, you know I like to end. Come on, let's just throw what happens if we have fractions. They're not going to kill us. We don't talk about fractions. Boom. What's that going to do for us? We'll take a minute, pause this, solve it out, get your slope. Remember, we know that our slope is our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Do that, ready, set, go. And I'm assuming we're back, so I'm just going to, I always start here, point back. I'm going to have 6 minus 4 all over negative 2 minus negative 5. Make sure you put that extra negative in there, right? It becomes a positive, so 4 is equal to 2/3 times our x, negative 5, plus b. And again, we're going to multiply out. We can do that over 1. Nothing simplifies, so I'm going to get that 4 equals negative 10/3 plus b. And I want to make this easy for myself. So fraction busters, I only have one denominator to get rid of, so I have to multiply everything by 3, though. So 3 times b, 3 times negative 10/3, and 3 times 4. So I'm going to end up with 12 equals, those are going to cancel out, right? And I'm left with negative 10 plus 3b. Again, add 10 to both sides. Negative 22 equals 3b. Boom. Look at that. Divide that by 3. And we have, I'm going to leave it just like that. B equals 22/3. Our last step today is step 3. And for step 3, we're just going to plug it in. We know our m equals, what do we find our m was? 2/3.